if you keep blaming other people for your problems, you would have to hire a psychiatrist for the rest of the world in order for you to get better. And I really believe that as human beings, we're designed to continuously grow and expand. When you change, you become a threat to people in your life who do not change. And I always talk about this formula for success, which is you embrace the suck, meaning suck, success.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You just keep embracing it, and eventually that suckiness becomes successful.
Welcome to the Health Signal Podcast, where we make health data make sense. I'm your host, Boris Berjan, and on this show, we connect with trusted health experts who help us decode the trends, science, and signals shaping our health. Whether you're optimizing for longevity, managing stress, tracking sleep, or just trying to make smarter decisions in a noisy wellness world, this podcast is your accessible expert. Let's get into it.
All right, Ben, finally got to sit down with you. It's been a while we've been trying to connect, so I'm super excited in this format because I have wanted to ask you lots of questions, and I get to do it today in the best way possible in Las Vegas. So.
Las Vegas with the sphere right behind me. I know y'all can't see it on camera. We got the sphere right outside.
We'll show the sphere, yeah.
Well, I'm excited. I love what you're doing, man. It's great. I'm grateful to be here with you.
Yeah, so it's, by the way, everybody asked about you, said you're a stand-up guy. So I was like, okay, I'm dying to meet Ben. So you have a really interesting story. A lot of it resonated with me as well. I'd love to dive into, and I know you've talked about this, but in a different light. So you lost 80 pounds, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
Right?
Yeah.
I kind of want you to dive into what the mental fortitude is needed to consistently keep losing that weight, because obviously you hit plateaus and you had to make a lot of decisions. Talk to us about what support systems did you have in place? How did you approach the problem? Was it mathematical? Was it brute force? I'd love to dive in because I've never talked to you about this, so it's more of a personal question as well as audience, I'm sure. Would love to know how you've lost 80 pounds and kept it off. Yeah,
it's an important question, especially with so many people being overweight in the United States and in the world. Of course, Harvard is saying by the year 2030, 50% of the United States population will be obese, right? So it's a big problem.
Yeah.
I was one of those people, right? For most of my life, I was obese physically, obese mentally. And as a kid, I grew up eating a standard American diet. My mom actually worked at Kentucky Fried Chicken. So she would bring me home fried food all the time.
Makes sense, right?
Makes sense, right? And she was doing the best she could do with her, resources. And I love my mom. I have nothing against her for that. It was just part of the lifestyle. But as a kid, I was unhealthy. I had bad addictions to video games, to drugs. I was really bad in school. Like I was skipping school, hanging out with like gang members, really different life than I live now. And nothing changed as a kid, meaning this happened as a teenager. And then as an adult, I found myself back in 2007 being a 23-year-old guy who was inflamed, 250 pounds, 34% body fat, obese, high blood pressure, developing metabolic syndrome, and going through a bad breakup in life. So I had a lot of mental stress going on.
Yeah.
And Boris, I actually wanted to give up. I actually looked for ways to end my life, and I explored ways to do that. And every time I explored doing that, I thought about my mother and the devastation my mother would have to deal with if I took my life. So I didn't go through with it because I didn't want to hurt my mom. And this point of my life was a pinnacle point, and I was rock bottom. I was in a really dark place. And it started with the mindset shift. You mentioned like that mental fortitude, that mindset, what does it take? That's where it started for me. I started to get into books. I started to read books for the first time in my life. Dr. Wayne Dyer, Bob Proctor, Tony Robbins, like these incredible people that started to share amazing messages with me. They started to talk like I've never heard anybody speak before.
Right.
And what it did was so many things, but number one, it helped me take ownership and responsibility because I was blaming everybody else for my problems. Oh, of course I'm obese. My mom gave me Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I have my dad's bad genetics. He's diabetic, and I have his genes, and I was just blaming everybody. But when I took responsibility, all that went away.
Yeah.
And I remember Wayne Dyer saying, if you keep blaming other people for your problems, you would have to hire a psychiatrist for the rest of the world in order for you to get better.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, that is like truth serum. So I took responsibility, I took ownership, started to move my body, and I lost 80 pounds, as you mentioned, in 9 months. I went from 34% body fat to as low as 6% body fat in 9 months. And yes, I achieved a physical six-pack, but eventually I achieved something even more important, a mental six-pack. But to your question, here's what happened, and here's what's happening to everybody when they set a goal, whether it's a weight loss goal, a financial goal, whatever it is. You cannot outperform your self-image, how you view yourself.
Right.
So my self-image was still an obese man, even though I was looking in the mirror and I had six-pack abs.
Yeah.
So I would find ways to go back to be congruent with that self-image, meaning I lost all the weight and I still have the self-image of an obese person.
Yeah.
So I would find ways to sabotage myself and gain the weight back and course correct to match the image I had of myself. So it wasn't until I changed that self-image of a healthy, lean person that I was able to change my behaviors and the weight stayed off, and it's continued to stay off. And that happens for so many people. They go on a diet, they go on a plan, and if their self-image is of a sick person or somebody with diabetes or autoimmune, they'll make some progress and they'll course correct to match their self-image.
Sabotage, right?
That's right.
You know what? It's a great point. I think it gets excruciatingly more and more mentally burdensome on most people. Like if you look at social media and what it does, I've seen people that have ripped bodies go, oh, I look soft. I look skinny today. I'm not as jacked, right? And I'm like, you're the top 0.001% of male body. Like you look like a Greek god. And then they're like, well, I should probably take some TRT. I should go on, and then it's roid and they up the doses. And then eventually there's no more the body can do, right? And then they get body dysmorphia. So even in that realm of like aesthetics and athletics, that's true. But I guarantee you that most people that don't even achieve those physiques always think of themselves as less than, right?
I believe it.
Anything that they're doing, they're like, as long as they believe they're less than, it's never going to get better because you're always going to sabotage yourself.
That's right.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Not a lot of people talk about that. Right?
Yeah, it's so important. And that applies to everything, not just your health, but your relationships, your finances, like your business, your growth. Like I'll give the example of like finances, right? Somebody who has a self-image of who makes, let's say, I don't know, $5,000 a month. That's your self-image. You just barely make enough to make ends meet. And you're a salesperson, and then you have a great month, and you make like 10K in a month. You double your income. If your self-image is that of somebody who's only making 5K, you'll have a good month, and then you'll have a terrible month to match that income, right? So you have to improve, change the self-image to get results in your life. You cannot outperform a poor self-image.
Love this train of thought. Hard to implement.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's dive into that. How do you get, because some would argue here, look, guys, I get it, but you need the momentum and you need the momentum. Like you need to make the 5K before we can believe you can make the 5K. You can't believe you're going to make the 5K if you haven't done it before because you're basically being an imposter and you might even sabotage before you get there. So I'd love your opinion on how do you approach this and how have you approached this exact situation?
Yeah, I love that you asked that because let's get practical and tactical. How do we actually apply this so we can actually get long results and continue to grow and lose weight or whatever it is? The self-image is in a part of the subconscious mind called your paradigms. Your paradigms are a multitude of habits that are just embedded in that subconscious mind and you just go on autopilot. You don't even think about it. It's your habitual nature. And there's only two ways to change that. So there's essentially only two ways to change the self-image. The first way is an emotional impact. And 9 times out of 10, an emotional impact is something that's really negative. It's like a near-death experience. It's anybody who is involved with like 9/11, right? If you were living in, it changes your self-image, changes your thoughts, and you change your habits essentially. That's the first way. Now, ideally, we don't want to use that because it's negative and it's unpredictable.
Right.
The second way, which is the better way, and this is what I did, is constant spaced repetition. Okay? We need to declare this new self-image enough times so it goes from your conscious mind into your subconscious mind and replaces the old self-image.
Yeah.
So to give you an example of how I did this with the weight loss thing, I would write down on an index card, I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm at my perfect weight. I feel good. I look great. The health I seek is now seeking me. I remove any blockages between us. Right? It's an affirmation, right?
Yeah.
But I would look at it. I would read it. I would focus on it. I would put my emotions into it. And I would do it enough times, constant spaced repetition, where it replaced the old self-image. And we could do that with any area in your life. So that is the best way to change it. It doesn't happen overnight, but it happens over time, and it's pretty much guaranteed to happen.
Yeah. I like that because you already got there and now you're reinforcing. and this doesn't work when you're not there and you're like, I'm the perfect example of what I am. And then you look in the mirror and you're like, but you're not, right? So
it can be challenging for the mind to accept that.
Yeah, it's all, like, you know you're lying, so then you're probably gonna feel bad that you're lying. Then you have imposter syndrome. But if you're doing the actions, you're like, I'm going towards this and I'm gonna get there. Then I think it changes things, right?
Yeah.
This is the biggest thing I've seen with like entrepreneurs, even, or people trying to get healthy, is like, they're like, I already want to be there, and I'm like, but you're not. And that's okay, but you're doing the steps to get there, right? So you're putting so much pressure on yourself to already be that person, when part of it is the journey. Like, I know it sucks to say that, and it's so frustrating, right? For people to hear that. And even with me with business, I'm like, I want to go faster and bigger. And I'm like, that's not, nobody cares that I want to do that, right? I'm like, we need to do the actions to get there. And I'm like, let's keep doing them and focusing, and it's going to be hard, right? And that was the whole point. I'm like, but I see that vision for myself and I'll keep going for it. And your point is exactly correct. Like, reinforce it once you get there, right? Because it's so easy to be like, and I want more now, and I want more, and always chase it, which is totally fine. But if you're never acknowledging where you are, you're always going to have that in the back of your mind, right?
That's right. Yeah, you need to know where you are to know where you're going, right? And it's like you said, it's all about closing the gap. And I'm like you. I set goals. I want to hit the goals, and it's great to have those goals. But I've noticed, and I want to hear if you could relate to this, when I hit a goal, I'll feel good about hitting the goal, but I felt so much happier, like, on the way to hitting the goal, like all the things. And goals are not necessarily for getting, they're for growing. It's who you need to become. It's the relationships you need to develop, the people you need to help. It's really about what you are growing into versus what you're getting.
Yeah.
And I really believe that as human beings, we're designed to continuously grow and expand. Like, we have a spirit that wants to grow and expand. But I'm curious, are you the same way? Like, when you hit a goal, do you think, oh man, I had so much more fun, like, on my way to achieving it than actually hitting the goal? Have you experienced that before?
More recently than before.
Okay.
Like, before I was very like, I just need to hit it and I'm annoyed, But now I see how over time things really do compound. Like, now I'm in my 30s. In my 20s, I was always just like, I just want to hit it. Like, it doesn't matter. Like I just want to get there, and I don't. That's it. That was my only thing.
Yeah.
And now I'm much more like, every day is working towards bigger and bigger goals. When I hit those, I know I'm going to have more. So just enjoy that. I'm in an industry that I love, talking to people that I resonate with now. I was like very mindful about my career choices for my 30s. And now I'm much more in where you are, which is like mastery, focusing on the day-to-day, enjoying the boring stuff, because I know those are going to compound over years that nobody wants to do.
Yes.
I finally gotten to that point, but I'm not going to lie and say that was easy. It really wasn't. And I also think you need a little bit of momentum to like actually start enjoying it. Because when you're just starting out anything, I think it's so extremely hard, that first like phase, that you're just kind of like trying to come up for where you can't enjoy anything. But like me and that's where you're building the momentum.
You're planting the seeds.
Yeah. Like, it's always gonna suck.
Yeah.
And nothing is like fly by night until it does happen, right? And you could get lucky and that does happen, but most of the time you still have to put in a tremendous amount of work day in and day out to get to where you want to be. And a lot of the time, it's not things I want to do necessarily.
That's right. No, you're absolutely correct. And that is relatable to what I shared about the affirmation. A lot of people hear me talk about affirmation, especially left brain people who are more analytical.
Yeah.
They say, Ben, what you just said about affirmation, that's bullshit. Like,
right.
Affirmations don't work. Law of attraction is bullshit. But what they don't understand is that the law of attraction is a secondary law to the law of vibration. Okay, so the law of vibration means it's essentially your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions.
Yeah.
So the third part, actions, is where it's at. Like, you can't just think your way to success. You can't just have an affirmation and think you're going to be successful. You got to take action.
Yep.
And like you said in the beginning, it's like you're just getting your head above water and you could barely breathe, but you're taking action. You're progressing. You're planting seeds, and there's a season for sowing.
Yeah.
There's a season for reaping, and typically they're not the same season.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's a seen world in terms of like, you could see that you're getting results. Maybe with finances, you could see your finances increase, or weight loss, you could see the weight loss come off, or with your like continuous glucose monitor, you could see your blood sugars improving. But there's also an unseen world, and what's happening in the subconscious mind, and there's changes happening that you cannot see, and you have to have faith that you are making progress. And I remember Bob Proctor said, faith is the ability to see the invisible, to believe in the incredible, so you could achieve what the masses perceive as impossible,
Right.
right? That's like the best definition of faith I've ever heard, right?
Yeah, that's really
so
good. That's
I
really
would
good.
have the faith and just know if you're putting in the work, even if you don't see it yet, it will happen. It will manifest. Just keep going.
No, it's 100% true. Like nothing I've ever done hasn't been true like that, right? And it's always frustration, day in and day out. Sometimes it feels like I'm dragging my feet, and then all of a sudden we have like 7 breakthroughs in a week. I'm like, no. It was 6 months ago.
That's right. Yeah.
We did this 6 months ago and worked up until this day.
Right.
It didn't just blow up, and we had a great day, right? So I appreciate that a lot, and I can resonate with your story because I was first a refugee and then an immigrant second. So I refugee in Germany and then an immigrant to Canada because Germany didn't let us stay. I was in shitty neighborhoods, like literally the ghetto, and growing up. So I didn't have a lot of money at that time. My dad was delivering pizza. He'd bring home pizza a lot of the time. Thankfully, I had my mom didn't work at KFC, so she made home cooked meals. Eastern Europeans very much still have that culture. But, I was around not very good people, gang members. I was going down these life circles, so I can appreciate that because when I started working at restaurants and diners, on the bus, I would listen to Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins.
Love it.
So I had my commute every day was about 2.5 hours to go to college. Every day I was just listening to these tapes, and I started to realize how much different my thinking became, right? And I was like, okay, if I make decisions everyone else is making, I'm just not going to be where I am. And that was probably some of the biggest differences in where I am now because of it. So that's why I love, I was reading about your stories and listening to some podcasts, and I was like, I want to extrapolate this because we do have that similarity of
Many similarities.
how we got there.
Yeah. And studying the same people. Jim Rohn, what a legend, right? And he mentored Tony Robbins.
He did, right? Nobody, a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
Because Tony gets all the praise.
Because
and he should, right?
He's
he
incredible,
really went after it, right?
Jim Rohn mentored him.
That's right.
He was. You could find a little young Tony Robbins at all these Jim Rohn seminars back in the 1960s and 70s.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so with the 80-pound weight loss, I want to dive into a little bit more specifics because people listening are probably, some of them are in the same area as you, starting off where you were, or it's practitioners listening and wanting to resonate with their patients who are in those situations. How did you, what was phase 1? Was it just, all right, I'm going to cut out bad food? Was it, I'm going to start going to the gym? Was it, I'm going to put myself in a new environment? Was it all of those things at once? How did you specifically approach that journey that you went on?
It was the environment. It was changing my environment because your environment determines the thoughts that you think, which is that self-image, your belief system, which determines the actions you take or don't take.
Yeah.
Your habits, your results, and your destiny, essentially, right? So I had to change my environment.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned, on your bus ride, you could have listened to music for 2 hours, right? But you chose to listen to something educational. So that's something I did in my car. Instead of listening to music, I started listening to something educational.
That's
so
awesome.
change that environment, right?
Yeah.
There were people in my life that were used to me, like Fat Ben and Obese Ben who drank alcohol.
Yeah.
And I had to say that I'm not doing this anymore, right? I needed to change that environment because if I continue doing that, I'm not going to be able to lose this weight and get healthy. So I had to cut people out of my life or spend less time with them. So environment change was the first thing, right? I think that is important because you could not change your environment and start taking action and doing these different things, but it's really difficult when you have the same people in your life that are used to the old version of you, that old self-image of you. It's really difficult to change it when people are viewing you and feeding more energy into that old self-image of yourself. So I had to change my environment. It's not easy to do that, as you know, right? There's people in your life that you've had for a very long time.
That's right.
And when you change, you become a threat to people in your life who do not change. It holds a mirror to what they're not doing. And it's not because they want you to feel unhappy or unhealthy. It's because they don't want to change. They see, okay, Boris is not drinking anymore. Ben's not drinking anymore. Should I not drink anymore? Right? They start to question their habits, and they don't like that. So it's better for them to say, just come on, Ben, just come have one drink with me. Stop being a baby, right?
Yeah.
So that was the first thing I did. After that, I just started moving my body. I started exercising, walking, working out, getting that endorphin rush from exercising. There was some dietary changes. Now this is back in 2007 where I didn't really know about keto or carnivore or all the things that I'm doing now. It was more about, okay, I'm just going to eat more whole foods versus processed foods, which is a great start, right?
Really, really good start.
Yeah, for most people, like that's the
right.
starting point. So I did that right off the bat, and the weight started to come off. Of course, I was 23 years old and a male, and my metabolism was really good at the time, and still is to this day. So it was easier for me. But in 9 months, I was able to lose all that weight. But again, it wasn't until I corrected the self-image that I was able to keep the weight off, because I kept finding ways to gain it back to match the old self-image.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm with you, man. Like, people argue it's this, that I'm like, environment is like, I used to think environment was like 60% of results. I'm all the way to like 90, 95.
I'm with you.
Because I'm like, if you live in Miami Beach and everyone's ripped around you and tan and looks hot, you're going to work out. You're going to do it. Ironically, you live in...
I live in Miami.
Yeah, so it's like...
But I was living in Miami Beach when I was that age.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Okay.
So that's... So my point is, there's parts of...
Of course, there's
Miami.
nuances to that.
There's always nuances. It was just a generalization, but it's like, if all your friends are multimillionaires, the chances of you being a multimillionaire is almost guaranteed now.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to do the things that they're doing that got them there.
Yeah.
If all your friends are in a gang and robbing stores, you're most likely going to start robbing a store and be part of a gang. Like, it's so hard to get out of that, and it takes a lot of time, right? And to your point, people start to envy you as soon as you start to change for the better, right? Like, everyone's like, oh, poor Ben, you're getting fatter when you're getting fatter, because they're not. Mm-hmm. But as soon as you're getting ripped, they're like, why are you doing that, man? Come for a beer.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Why are you being so strict? You know, let's go out for Philly cheesesteaks like we used to, right?
That's right.
It's like, no. Now you're getting jealous. Mm-hmm. And it's a human nature to do that, I think, until you've really worked on yourself. But I know exactly what you're talking about, and that's good for you, man. Did you like literally just move out of the neighborhood?
I didn't. I just had to say no to everybody.
You just were like,
I'm done going to this party.
It's even harder.
I know, because I still stayed in the same neighborhood. They were still there.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen overnight, right? There was just setting boundaries, conversations over time.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, like, it's kind of funny the way I say this, but it's true, that, you know, I still went to some events and parties, and then people were trying to influence me. Why don't you stop drinking? Like, have a beer, like you said, like eat the pizza.
Yeah.
And it sucked, right? When you have, it's difficult, and it could suck, right? You say no, and you're more committed to your goals than a temporary buzz or satisfaction, instant gratification to want to please somebody in your life. And you start working out, you get sore, it sucks, right? And I always talk about this formula for success, which is you embrace the suck, meaning success, right?
Yeah.
You just keep embracing it, and eventually that suckiness becomes successful.
Right.
You turn that suck into success. And that's what I did, right? And I started to understand that, man, like every time I set boundaries and I commit to the goals and I stick with what I said I was going to do, I have more confidence, I have more conviction, I feel better. And that was more important to me than pleasing a friend in my life because they want me to drink alcohol with them.
Again, anybody listening, I'm like, I want that resonate so much. Anything you do in the beginning is gonna suck, and you suck at it too. Like setting boundaries, like when you didn't know how, I'm sure it was hard.
Yeah, of course.
Right? Because you're like, this feels weird. I don't want to say no to my friends, etc. I had a similar scenario where one of my friends, I said something about I have an assistant now. This was years ago, and they started laughing. They're like, what, is that a joke? Like, what do you mean you have an assistant that's snooty or something? I was like, what do you mean it's snooty? I have a business. I need an assistant. Like, this is, and I started cutting those friends off like you did, because I was like, hang on a second, you guys should have been interested in that. Oh, cool, man. Like, how did you get
awesome,
one?
man.
Where did you? Yeah, and I was like, oh, I see now how this works. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, and I gave them more chances, and then eventually I was like, okay, I can't hang out with these people, right? There's nothing. We're going like this, and so there's never going to be a way we're going to see eye to eye anymore.
That's right.
So again, like, super huge kudos. You stayed in a hostile environment, I want to say, and made it through, which is amazing.
Thank you, bro. Yeah, and you're absolutely, I'm glad you do the same thing. It's difficult, right? People don't resist change, they resist being changed.
Yes.
And when you start to change, like, they feel like you're forcing them to change too, to adapt to, because not only do you have to adapt to your new changes, they have to adapt to it.
Yeah.
And that's very difficult. There's a story about crabs in a bucket, where you could put 20 crabs in a bucket without a lid, leave the 20 crabs in the bucket overnight, come back the next morning, look inside of the bucket, and all 20 crabs are still there, and you're thinking, are they stupid? There was no limit. Why did they not try to just escape? Well, there was a few brave crabs that tried to escape and break free to achieve their goals.
Yeah.
But anytime the other crabs saw that, they would drag that crab back down, even rip its legs off just to bring it back to the bucket, right?
That's
so we have a
crazy.
lot of crabs in our lives. We have crabs that want to drag us back down to their level, and it doesn't make us better than them. There's nobody that's better than anybody else. Like you mentioned, it's just different energies, different vibration, different goals, different paths. And if you're on a different vibration or energy, it just doesn't, you can't coexist. You know, there has to be something where you support each other, even if it's on a different path, but you support each other. If they don't, they're making fun of you because you got an assistant.
Yeah.
That's probably not going to work.
Right, exactly. You got healthy, you took all this time, you set your boundaries, you changed your diet, you started working out. On the back of that, you've built an amazing career in the health space, become an influencer, a speaker, and an author. Was there a moment you decided to do that? Did you fall into it? Were people asking you questions? You started helping them and it naturally happened? I'd love to unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, so I lost the weight, right? In 2008, the weight loss transformation was achieved. I was working at a 9-to-5 job at that time in Bay Harbor Islands, Florida, which is right by Miami Beach, Florida. And I was a manager at a packing and shipping store, right? And I went through this amazing transformation of health, and I got really fascinated with studying health and nutrition. So I became a personal trainer. And so I was doing personal training as like a side gig, working at this job, 9-to-5 job, where I was a mobile trainer, and I would go to clients and I would train them. But one of the first things that I did when I wanted to get my feet wet as a personal trainer is I put ads on Craigslist. And I remember the ad was most affordable trainer in South Florida. Like, what an ad, like, but people would want me, I would charge like $20 for 60 minutes for a session, right? So cheap because I was just starting out.
Yeah.
But I didn't have anywhere to train them. And sometimes they didn't have anywhere for me to train them. So I was still living at my childhood home with my mom, and my sister had moved out of the house, and we turned her bedroom, the childhood bedroom, into a little in-home gym. So I had people responding to Craigslist ads, me accepting the offer, coming to my house, knocking on my door, and I was training them. People I don't even know, training them in my sister's old bedroom for 60 minutes for $20 or so, right? That's what got me started. And eventually that progressed to like going to clients, and then actually opened up a gym. In 2013, I opened up a CrossFit gym in Miami, which I operated from 2013 to 2018. So, you know, and then in 2018, I was at my CrossFit gym, and at this time I was like, man, I really wanted to make a bigger difference. Like I love the CrossFit gym. I like having this community, but I could only impact so many people there. And I had big goals and aspirations back then, and I still do today, to educate 1 billion people. I want to educate the world, or at least a big percentage of the world. So I ended up selling my CrossFit shares in 2018 and going online 100%, right? Rebranding to Keto Camp. At that time, my company was called Shred Fat Inc., and I rebranded to Keto Camp, getting into the keto space, the fasting space, starting the channels, the podcast.
Yep.
And that just started to grow. I started to write books and then get speaking gigs. So that's kind of like, and I kind of put in a short story, but that's kind of how it progressed. And 2018 was pivotal for me because I made that decision to start the YouTube, the podcast, to go online. And it's been incredible. It's been just growing every single year.
Yep.
I still feel like I'm just getting started.
Yep.
I have a new book coming out, which I'd love to talk about, and related to what you're doing with Thea.
Of course.
Called Metabolic Freedom
Yeah.
with Hay House. May 13th it comes out. It's all about the metabolism. So it's been cool to see the journey, to go from a Craigslist ad charging $20 for 60 minutes to getting a publishing deal with one of the best publishing houses in the world, Hay House, which, by the way, Dr. Wayne Dyer, the guy that I mentioned who kind of saved my life, was a Hay House author, and now I am a Hay House author. What a freaking cool full circle moment, bro.
Man.
Yeah.
Congrats, dude.
Thank you.
That's really, really cool. And we'll definitely dive into that book. I'm super excited. We'll obviously link it in the show notes, guys. That decision was very thoughtful. It feels like 2018. Let's go all out. And now you're blowing up, and I look back, I'm like, yeah, he's been doing this for 7 years plus, right? Like, of course he is. Like, the consistency there. Was there anything that sparked this ambition in you? You know, 1 billion people, impacting 1 billion people. I think similarly. I think of scales of magnitude. And maybe it's because of who we listened to growing up on the bus, like we talked about, right?
Yeah, for sure. That's part of it.
And I'm sure that's part of it. And I think, because I mentioned this because I have lots of friends that get to a business, makes $1 million, a couple $1 million a year or whatever, and they completely stop. Like they have no desire to build bigger, deeper, keep going, push themselves, etc. You're not doing that. So is there something driving you? Has that fire always been there? Was it the tapes that built your self-belief? Did you put a new persona onto you that you're now kind of living up to and working towards?
Yeah, it's a good question. And, it's actually because of what happened with my dad. My dad had type 2 diabetes, and my parents were immigrants, like you. They immigrated from Iran in the 1970s, and then I was born in 84, so first generation American. And my dad followed a standard American diet, and he developed diabetes, which is something that, Thea is really helpful, useful. But back then, in 2013, when my dad's diabetes really got bad, there were no continuous glucose monitors, right? They were finger pricks, but even with that, it wasn't that readily available. So my dad developed type 2 diabetes. He actually always had it for most of my life, but it progressed. And in 2013, it got really bad to the point where he was having terrible diabetic neuropathy. And he called me saying he couldn't even walk to the restroom. So I picked him up, and my mom picked my mom up, took my dad to the hospital, to the emergency room, Mount Sinai Medical Center in Miami Beach. And in the hospital, so my dad knew that as his diabetes continued to get worse, one of the things that might happen to him is that he might need an amputation. They might amputate his foot or both feet, because as you know, as the neuropathy gets worse, as the diabetes progresses, in order to prevent an infection from spreading to the rest of the body and killing the person, you chop off the amputation, or you chop off the foot, create an amputation to prevent that from spreading. So in the hospital, my dad was very stressed out. And within 48 hours of being in the hospital, he actually suffered a massive stroke.
Oh, wow.
In the hospital, which left him paralyzed. He lost his ability to speak. And the crazy thing about it, Boris, is that the hospital didn't even know he had a stroke.
Didn't know.
They didn't know. I walked in.
Wow.
I left them one night, came back the next morning. I walk into the room, and he's just there, staring.
Yeah.
He's not talking. And I'm thinking, something's up here. Like, Dad, why aren't you speaking to me? I could tell he was trying to talk to me, but he couldn't. So I flagged the doctors, flagged the nurses, anybody, and they started running tests, and they said that he suffered a stroke in the hospital, right? And if if somebody is having a stroke, you could catch it earlier where it doesn't cause paralyzation or lose. So you lose your ability to speak. So after that happened, he was transferred to hospice, and I visited my dad for several months, every single week, multiple times a week. And he progressively got worse and worse and worse. And I remember it was August 11th, 2014, Monday night. I visited him like I was doing every week, and he was in the worst shape that I had ever seen him in. And when I walked into the room, he was actually like convulsing and throwing up on himself. It was a really bad sight for me to see. And the nurses rushed in and started cleaning him up, and they did a good job cleaning him up. And at that night, I walked up to him. I expressed how much I loved him, my gratitude for him. I told him that he's always going to be my dad. I'm always going to be his son. I gave him a kiss on the forehead. I said the words, "Hasta la vista, baby," from the movie Terminator. He used to always say it to me. We love that movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie, classic. And I drove home and I was crying, and I got home and I was just praying for God to end my father's suffering. It's 9 months he was in that state, right? So I was just praying, please just end my father's suffering. And I went to bed, and the next day, I just go about my day around noon. So this is within 24 hours of this happening. Around noon, I get a phone call from the hospice, and I pick it up, and it's the hospice nurse letting me know that my father passed away that morning, the following morning. And I remember sitting there with a wave of emotions. Right? Of course, part of me was like, thank God I no longer have to see my dad in that state.
Yeah.
But the other part of me was like, I just lost my father, and you only get one dad. And I was angry. I was confused. I wanted to know why my dad suffered so much, because at this time I didn't understand diabetes.
Yeah.
I had a general understanding, like most people do. His doctors never discussed, hey, let's monitor his blood sugar levels, his postprandial blood sugar levels. Let's change his nutrition. Let's work on reversing it. We never had that conversation. I didn't understand this could actually be a conversation.
Yeah.
They said, let's manage his diabetes with medication.
Right.
And your dad needs to lose weight to help us manage his diabetes. But here's here's more insulin, which causes him to gain weight. It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So I just dug into the research. And that's where I took the health from a hobby to a passion, a pain to a purpose, right? That's where I was like, man, I discovered that I could have saved my dad's life. I could have helped him reverse his diabetes. Like all the things I do today, all the things that you talk about, like it would have saved his life. But I also get, Boris, that I was given the mountain so I could show the world that the mountain can be moved.
Yep.
I could show the world that, look, it doesn't matter if you have diabetes. It doesn't matter if you have whatever condition. That's a lifestyle condition. The body was built to heal itself.
Yep.
Remove the interference, the body heals itself. So that's where the goal of educating 1 billion people came out of that situation. And within that goal, there's a goal to reverse type 2 diabetes in 1 million people in the next 10 years. We're doing that right now.
I love that.
It's going to be the biggest case study ever done on naturally reversing type 2 diabetes. So we could shove this in big pharma's face who want to just throw medication at you to manage your diabetes and say, look, they actually did it in 1 million people. They have all the data to show that it's happened in 1 million people.
Yeah.
And we did it naturally. So that's where it started for me.
That's amazing story, man. And obviously very sad to hear about your dad and the experience he had. It shows you how short life can be. And unfortunately, I think a lot of the time people don't wake up until something like that happens. I think there was a story, there was a father drank alcohol, beer every day, basically was a drunk. His son got hit in driving his car by another car. The other car was a drunk driver and another dad. That guy never picked up a glass of alcohol for the rest of his life until he died. I think it was like 30 years after that.
Emotional impact.
Yeah.
Change his self-image and his paradigm.
Exactly.
But it's usually negative and
It's
unpredictable.
really bad. Yeah. And his son was like, I think his son made it, but like it was not good. Like, you know, there was like severe damages, etc. I was like, man, we're like, human beings are so amazing, but then so primitive. Like, you know, like we have all these like mechanisms that don't serve us, and it takes rewiring or perspective or coaching or multiple ways of approaching it, right? It depends on who you are. And it's just sad that that's the case.
Yeah.
We're really like, you know, because I came as a refugee. My dad told me a story of a guy. He was basically a locked up prisoner in a basement, and he was like, man, I just want to get out of this basement. Like, I don't want for anything. I don't need a car. I don't need a house. I don't need good food. Like, just get me out of this basement, right? So the war ends, and he gets out of the basement, and then naturally he's like, well, now that I'm out of the basement, you know, it would be nice to get a nice hot shower, right? And then gets a hot shower, and he's like, well, all my hair's grown, so it would be nice to go to the barber and look nice, right? And he's like, it would be nice to get a hot meal, right? And then he's like, well, it would be nice to own a home. So it's like, you know, very quickly the comfort level increased because the pain was like reduced to almost nothing. Now that you were at equilibrium, you could live amongst the other people, right? And it's like,
makes sense.
You need to remember that you were once locked up, and that could happen again because it already happened once. And you need to remember that, and it's hard, right? And I think because, you know, we have some similarities. Like, I grew up in a shitty town, shitty neighborhood, poor as shit. Had to move through 3 countries just to like be able to live somewhere. Had to fight for my whole life. Had medical issues, and like every single day, it's like ingrained into me that that's something that's still possible.
You don't forget.
Yeah, and so I do still sabotage sometimes, and I get stressed. But at the back of my head, I'm like, if you keep going, you know what's gonna happen. And then I'm like, all right, I need to just. Like, let's do a 48-hour fast. That usually solves
Reset.
that usually solves like cravings and stuff that I had. So thank you for sharing that. I think it's people that don't have those experiences, I think it's harder for them when they're kind of shielded to take that massive action. But I think through stories like yours and then listening to this podcast, my hope is they can feel the energy and the sympathy you had towards your father and what you're trying to do and get to them. So
thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
Let's dive into your book. I'm very interested. What's it about? When's it coming out? And what can we expect out of it?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks for asking me that. It's called Metabolic Freedom.
Yeah.
It's all about metabolic health. It's all about the metabolism. As we know, Boris, about 88% to 93% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy. And those are from studies from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and other credible studies. And it's interesting, in 2016, Mayo Clinic published a study. They were set to determine how many Americans live an active, healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
And they based it off of 4 main criteria. Number 1, they don't smoke cigarettes. Number 2, they get moderate to vigorous activity, about 150 minutes total per week. Mm-hmm. Number 3, they eat a healthy diet, classified as a minimally processed diet. And number 4, they have, if it's a male, a body fat percentage of less than 20%, and for females, less than 30%. That was the 4 criteria. And they said in the study that only 2.7% of Americans hit that criteria.
I believe that.
Dude, less than 3%.
Yeah, I fully believe that.
Oh my gosh. And that's, active, healthy lifestyle. But let's go back to the other studies. The University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, showing that 88% of Americans are metabolically inflexible. They're unhealthy. They have high blood sugar levels, insulin resistance, high blood pressure. This is a huge percentage. And these studies are actually right before COVID happened. Yeah. You know that they're worse off these days, right? So the book
way worse
goes deep into the problems. The first half of the book of Metabolic Freedom is all about the causes of metabolic dysfunction, right? There's an entire chapter on being a sugar burner and why that is a cause to metabolic dysfunction. Only burning carbohydrates for fuel, not burning fat and ketones for fuel, right? That's a whole chapter. There's a chapter on why snacking and grazing is a contributor to metabolic dysfunction and the role of intermittent fasting. You mentioned 48-hour water fast, like different ways to practice fasting to teach your body to burn fat. There's a chapter on environmental toxins, obesogens, diabetogens. These are toxins that disrupt your pancreas' ability to produce insulin that cause diabetes. So it goes into these major toxins. A chapter on stress and lack of sleep, raising your blood sugar levels, causing metabolic dysfunction. I mean, I've worn a CGM. I know you've seen this with your data. You get poor sleep, higher levels of blood sugars the next day, right? And it happened right the next morning. So the first half is all about the problems. The second half is all about the solutions. Okay, now that we know we have a problem, how do we actually achieve metabolic freedom? And metabolic freedom is metabolic flexibility. It's having a healthy metabolism that could use whatever substrate is available for fuel. Yeah. That could be carbs, protein, fat, or that could be your body fat. A healthy metabolism could use whatever energy source. So we get into ketosis, we get into fasting, we get into different biohacks. I talk about the benefits of wearing a CGM, by the way, in the book. Yeah. I think this is a valuable resource that everybody needs to wear. Yeah. So I have a section on CGMs in the book. I talk about other biohacking devices. I talk about the value of strength training, muscle building, protein, getting daily steps. So the second half is all about the solutions, and then it's all tied together with a 30-day protocol where I give you a day-by-day breakdown, week-by-week breakdown for a month for you to go from metabolically dysfunctional and handcuffed to metabolically free with recipes. And so it's all tied together. So it's out on May 13th, 2025 with Hay House. It'll be at bookstores, Audible. I'll be narrating the Audible. Awesome. It'll be on Kindle. And I would love for your audience to get the book. I think it's going to be a game changer. It's going to just help so many people, especially since we have such a huge problem with metabolic dysfunction.
Amazing, Ben. Well, we'll definitely link that in the notes. And then outside of the book, where can people find you, connect with you, and follow you, and maybe sign up for Keto Camp? Yeah,
well, benazadi.com is the main website. So just my full name, benazadi.com. Has the courses. It has where you could pre-order the book or order the book if you're listening to this after the release. There's some special things we're giving out for anybody who orders the book through the website. So just go to benazadi.com. And then I have the Metabolic Freedom podcast, which I know you just launched your podcast, which is awesome. And dude, I just love what you're doing. Seriously, I love Thea. I love what you're doing. Continuous glucose monitor. It's up there as probably my favorite biohacking device. We could call it a biohacking device.
Sure.
To monitor data. Yeah. Like, I think it's so valuable, whether you have diabetes or not, or you just want to understand, like, what does stress do to your blood sugar levels? Yeah. What does poor sleep do? What does a podcast like this do, right? Right. It probably has gone up because of the adrenaline, right?
Check out.
Yeah. So, dude, I love what you're doing. I think it's so important. And here's something that I'll mention to you. So that goal, 1 million people reversing diabetes in 10 years.
Yep.
So I'm partnered with Dr. Pompa. We're launching that in just a few weeks. And
Perfect.
he's working with you.
He is,
so
yeah.
we're going to be working together on this together. So this will be
Amazing.
our goal, my friend.
Yes.
So we'll chat more about that.
I'm with you on
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Awesome, Ben. Well, obviously, guys, go follow Ben Azadi. I'm sure we'll talk again and have you on again, but it was an absolute pleasure, and I'm excited for the book.
Thank you, bro.
Awesome.
Grateful for you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
That's it for this episode of The Health Signal. We hope you're leaving with one small insight you can use and one big idea to explore. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to follow the Health Signal podcast and leave us a review if it helped simplify something complex. To learn more about how Thea is helping providers and patients make data-driven health decisions, visit theahealth.ai or check out the links in the show notes. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.